Hello and welcome to this tutorial where I'll show you how to set up Adobe Creative Cloud and After Effects using an AWS EC2 instance equipped with NVIDIA GPUs. We will cover two methods. First, setting up a standard Windows Server instance where we'll manually install NVIDIA GRID drivers, giving you control over the configuration. And second, using a pre-configured NVIDIA RTX Virtual Workstation AMI for a quicker and simpler setup. These methods directly addresses the needs of anyone requiring advanced graphics processing capabilities without the investment in high-end local hardware. It's useful for freelancers, small studios, and anyone looking to efficiently scale their creative projects using cloud computing. In the manual method, we'll launch a G4DN.2x large EC2 instance equipped with an NVIDIA GPU. To enhance performance, specifically for After Effects caching, we will set up an additional EBS GP3 volume. We'll establish a connection using Microsoft Remote Desktop from your MacBook to the instance, and then once connected, we'll use PowerShell to download and install the necessary NVIDIA GRID drivers so that you can fully leverage the GPU's capabilities. After completing these steps, I'll show you a much simpler method by using a pre-configured NVIDIA RTX Virtual Workstation AMI, which eliminates the need for manual driver installations. We'll then ensure that the EBS volume you attached is properly activated and will configure Adobe After Effects to use this drive. This configuration speeds up rendering and previewing by offloading intensive data processing to a separate drive. By the end of this tutorial, you'll have a powerful GPU-accelerated AWS environment ready to enhance your Adobe Creative Cloud workflows. Let's get started. Today, we're selecting the G4DN.2x large instance for our AWS EC2 setup. This instance type includes a single NVIDIA GPU, 8 vCPUs, and 32 GB of memory. This instance has the perfect balance of graphics performance and cost efficiency. The included NVIDIA GPU is efficient for After Effects, enabling robust rendering capabilities. With enough compute and memory resources available, it can handle complex tasks and large projects effectively. The high network and EBS bandwidths ensure fast data transfers, which are needed for video editing workflows. Before we launch the instance, let's ensure that our AWS account service quotas support our needs. AWS imposes default service quotas to manage resource allocation. If you haven't used GPU instances before, it's likely you'll need to request an increase for specific quotas for GPU instances. To begin, open the AWS Management Console and navigate to the Service Quotas dashboard. Use the search function to find quotas associated with EC2 services. Make sure you're in the region where you want to deploy the GPU instances. Next, search for and select Running on Demand G and VT instances. If you see that your quota is 8 or higher, you're ready to proceed with the instance launch. However, if your quota is anything less, you'll need to request an increase. On the detail page, click on Request Increase at the account level and specify an increase from 0 to at least 8 vCPUs. This adjustment is required to meet the minimum vCPU requirement for launching the G4DN.2x large instance. When you submit your quota increase, AWS will review it, which typically takes a few days. AWS will then inform you via email once your quota increase has been processed. Then you can launch the instance. Navigate to the EC2 Management Console and click on Launch Instance. You can name your instance something like Adobe Creative Cloud. Next, we'll select the right AMI for our setup. Filter the list of AMIs by searching Windows and then select Microsoft Windows Server 2022 Base. This AMI features a full graphical user interface, making it ideal for managing Adobe Creative Cloud applications directly and handling tasks visually. You'll see there is also a Microsoft Windows Server 2022 Core Base version. Optimized for command line use, it has a lighter system footprint and enhanced security, but is less suited for our needs as we require a graphical interface. Select the Windows Server 2022 Base AMI and choose the G4DN.2x large instance type. Before launching, you'll need to create a key pair. Click on Create Key Pair and name it something like Adobe Cloud Key. Select RSA as the key type and PEM as the file format. Download and save the key pair, as this file is essential for decrypting the Windows Administrator password after the instance launches. For network settings, we'll use a default VPC and subnets to keep this setup straightforward. You can enhance security by creating a dedicated security group. Under Network Settings, click Edit, and for the security group name, enter something descriptive like Adobe CC SG, with a brief description such as security settings for Adobe Creative Cloud applications. You'll initially see a default rule that allows inbound RDP traffic on port 3389 from anywhere. This is too broad. Modify these settings by selecting My IP under the source to restrict RDP access to your current IP address only. This change ensures that only your device can establish a secure remote desktop connection to the instance. The default configuration for the EC2 instance includes a 30GB GP2 volume. While this is generally sufficient for the operating system, the demands of Adobe After Effects requires more space. Therefore, we'll expand this volume to 50GB to ensure that there's enough room for application installations without compromising system performance. To further optimize performance, I recommend adding a separate EBS volume dedicated specifically to After Effects for caching purposes. This separation is beneficial as it allows us to isolate heavy read-write operations from the OS drive, which can enhance both system responsiveness and application efficiency. For this purpose, we'll configure a new GP3 volume known for its cost-effectiveness and high-performance metrics like provision IOPS and throughput. Click Add New Volume, choose GP3 as the volume type, and set the size to 100GB. Before finalizing the instance setup, let's protect our work. Click on Advanced Details and enable Termination Protection. This feature prevents the instance from being accidentally terminated, safeguarding your environment against potential disruptions. Once all the settings are configured, click Launch Instance to start your new optimized Adobe Creative Cloud environment. Now that our instance is up and running, the next step is to establish a remote desktop connection from your MacBook. We'll use the Microsoft Remote Desktop client for this purpose. If you don't already have Microsoft Remote Desktop installed, you can download it from the Mac App Store. Go back to the EC2 Management Console and retrieve your instance's public DNS. This is the address you'll use to connect to your instance. Now let's get the Windows Administrator password. With your instance selected, click on the Actions button and from the drop-down menu, navigate to Security and select Get Windows Password. You'll be prompted to upload the key pair file you downloaded earlier. Once uploaded, AWS will decrypt the password for you. Let's now set up the connection in Microsoft Remote Desktop. Click Add PC and in the PC name field, paste the public DNS of your instance. Under User Account, Click Add User Account, enter Administrator as the username, and paste the decrypted Windows password you obtained from the AWS console. If you're using a Mac with a Retina display, it's important to select the Display tab and check the Optimize for Retina Displays option. You can leave the other settings at the defaults and then click Add. Double-click on the newly created connection to initiate the session and then click Continue to proceed. You should now be connected to your EC2 instance and see the Windows desktop environment. You may notice that GPU metrics are not visible in the Task Manager's Performance tab. To utilize the GPU, we'll set up the AWS command line interface for essential AWS interactions. This includes fetching the latest NVIDIA drivers to configure the GPU for use. In the search box next to the Start menu, type PowerShell and right-click on Windows PowerShell. Select Run as Administrator to open PowerShell with administrative privileges. To download and install the AWS CLI, execute the following commands in PowerShell. You'll find these commands on my website link below. If you encounter any problems with downloading and installing the AWS CLI using PowerShell, or if you prefer a manual approach, you can download directly from the AWS website. After installation, a quick restart of PowerShell followed by running AWS version will confirm the successful installation of AWS CLI. Next, we need to configure it with our AWS credentials, which we can do by running AWS configure. You'll be prompted to enter your AWS Access Key ID and Secret Access Key, which you can get from your IAM user details in the AWS Management Console. For the default region name, enter the region code where your EC2 instance is located. The next step is to install NVIDIA GRID drivers. To begin the installation, download the drivers using the following PowerShell commands. Again, you can find these commands on my website linked in the video description below. After downloading, open the installation file in your desktop to begin the setup. Follow the on-screen instructions to complete the installation. To verify that the GPU is functioning properly and is fully integrated with your system, you can check Device Manager. You can also open the NVIDIA Control Panel. Let's now explore a simpler method by launching an NVIDIA AMI, eliminating the need for manual driver installations. Instead of selecting the AMI manually as we did in the previous method, this time we'll use the search bar to find the NVIDIA RTX Virtual Workstation AMI. This pre-configured AMI comes with the NVIDIA drivers pre-installed, streamlining the setup process significantly. Select the G4DN.2x large instance as you previously did. Proceed with configuring the instance settings, including setting up security groups, storage volumes, and instance details as we previously did. Once the instance is launched, Establish a remote desktop connection using the Microsoft Remote Desktop Client, similar to the previous method. Retrieve the instance's public DNS from the EC2 Management Console and use this to set up the connection. After connecting to the instance, you'll have access to a Windows desktop environment with the NVIDIA drivers already installed and configured. This means you can skip the manual driver installation steps and proceed directly to setting up Adobe Creative Cloud applications. Next, we'll download and install Adobe Creative Cloud. Open Microsoft Edge and go to the Adobe Creative Cloud website. Sign into your Adobe account with your credentials, and once logged in, you'll see an option to download the Creative Cloud desktop app. While downloading, you may encounter a security warning from Windows preventing the installer from running immediately. If a security prompt appears, right-click on the file in the download bar and select Keep. Then click Show More and then choose Keep Anyway. Now that the file is unblocked, you can open the installer. If you encounter a warning about JavaScript being disabled during installation, it typically refers to a setting within the operating system that needs adjustment. Adobe Creative Cloud applications often require JavaScript to be enabled for proper functionality, especially during installation processes. Open Internet Explorer. Click on the gear icon and click on Internet Options. Go to the Security tab, then click the Custom Level button. Scroll down to the Scripting section and under Active Scripting, select Enable. After making these changes, install Adobe After Effects again. The next step in your workflow should be to ensure that the EBS volume you previously attached is recognized and properly activated within your EC2 instance. To make your EBS volume visible and usable, right-click on the Start menu and select Disk Management. This utility will show you all the disks attached to your instance. Right-click on the unallocated space of your newly initialized disk, select New Simple Volume, and this will launch the New Simple Volume wizard. Follow the wizard to specify the volume sign, assign a drive letter, format the volume of a file system, typically NTFS for Windows, set the volume label, something like After Effects Cache, and then click Finish to complete the setup. After setting up and formatting the new EBS volume, you'll need to prepare it for use with Adobe After Effects by creating specific folders for caching. Open this PC and navigate to the new drive labeled After Effects Cache. Right-click in this drive windows, select New, then Folder, and create two folders, one named Disk Cache and another named Conformed Media Cache. Next, configure After Effects to use this drive. Open After Effects, go to Edit, Preferences, and then Media and Disk Cache. For the disk cache, click Choose Folder and navigate to the disk cache folder you just created on the new drive. Select this folder to store the intermediate renders. Under Conformed Media Cache, click Choose Folder and select the Conformed Media Cache folder you created. This folder will store processed media files necessary for quick access during project editing. Set the minimum disk size cache to 50 GB to allow room for growth in After Effects projects. Using a separate drive for caching improves After Effects by speeding up rendering and previewing. It prevents the main system drive from becoming overloaded, which helps maintain the overall responsiveness and stability of your system. In a recent animation I created, let's preview it now. Notice how After Effects utilizes the GPU. You can see both the CPU and GPU staying under 10%. Given that this is a relatively simple animation, such low utilization levels are expected and indicate efficient hardware handling. To enable audio playback on your Windows EC2 instance, which is typically disabled by default in server editions of Windows, you can start the Windows Audio service and set it to automatically launch at each reboot. Open the Run dialog by typing Run into the Windows search box and enter services.msc. This will open the Services Management console, where you'll need to scroll through the list until you'll find the Windows Audio service. Right-click on Windows Audio, choose Properties, and in the Properties windows, set the startup type to Automatic. This ensures that the audio service will start automatically every time the system boots up. Then click Start to initiate the service immediately. After that, click Apply, and then OK to save your changes. With these settings, your instance will be configured to play audio using its onboard capabilities. Congratulations! You have successfully completed the setup of an AWS EC2 instance tailored for high-performance graphics processing using Adobe Creative Cloud and After Effects.